you have a political, you have a monetary, you have a conflict type of environment. At the same time, you have the greatest inventiveness. We talk about this fabulous technology development that has so much potential to produce wonderful things, and then it could be a problem. So if you take the time horizon, the monetary policies that we're going to see and so on will have greater effects on the world. And you look at the world gaps, so it's difficult to be optimistic on that.
The billionaire investor and the founder of Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio, has been expressing his concerns about the economy and the global macroeconomic situation that is unfolding today. Over the last few years, he has consistently been talking about several issues, including the rising sovereign debt levels, the huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor, and the internal political divide, as well as the rising external geopolitical tensions that eventually could lead to a full-blown world war. According to Ray Dalio, all of these factors are typical signs of a long-term debt cycle that happens every 75 to 100 years. During the final stages of these cycles, massive disruptions and conflicts take place, and a new world order emerges as a result of that. So what are exactly some of the current challenges that Ray Dalio foresees ahead? And are there any potential solutions to these critical challenges according to him? But before we continue answering these questions, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with valuable insights and current trends that are happening in the financial markets. Now, one of the most powerful driving forces that will shape the internal and external political landscape and the financial markets is the 2024 elections, according to Ray Dalio. He says that there is a reasonable chance that neither major US political party will accept the results of the 2024 election, which in turn is raising the prospect of civil war.
So we have all of these forces coming together in 2024. So if we look at them individually and you put them together, they each affect each other, right? The presidential election and will affect the markets, and then the markets will also affect the amount of money that we're spending on wars will have an effect, and they are all coming together. I think that 24 will be a pivotal year because when we meet next year at this time, we will be able to look back on particularly the internal conflict force and particularly the geopolitical force,
so historically,
and see if that's a problem.
There have been a lot of talks recently about how Americans are migrating in and out of red and blue states, mainly due to differences in political ideologies and beliefs, which in turn highlights Ray Dalio's concerns about the current internal political situation. The domestic migration between states usually depends on several factors, including economic, social, and lifestyle preferences. The economic factors are usually things like the cost of living, employment and job opportunities, as well as tax rates. The top states that received the highest number of net domestic migration in 2022 were these 10 states, where Connecticut, South Carolina, Delaware, as well as Florida were reigning at the top, while states like California, New York, and Illinois saw the most net outflow migrations. According to Ray Dalio, the solution to the divisiveness and political polarity that exists today is only achievable by cooperation and by having a strong bipartisan middle.
I think we have a question of whether we're going to be able to come together as a country. What the country needs is a strong middle. It needs two things, basically. It needs to alienate the extremists, bring together the smart moderates to work together, and then to be able to make important reforms in the system so that it is highly productive together and it creates, reduces the wealth gap.
So the 2024 elections in the US are going to be very important, since their results will have major effects on the global financial markets, as well as the geopolitical conflicts that are happening today. Now, when it comes to other problems that Ray Dalio expressed his concerns about, is the growing wealth gap. This problem is a serious one, and usually is a detrimental factor that can undermine the stability of nations, and has always done so throughout history. If we take a closer look at some of the differences between the haves and the have-nots, we can see some alarming signs. The top 3 men in America, for example, own as much as the bottom half of all Americans. These 3 billionaires consist of only Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. Inflation in recent years has also been playing a significant role in this matter, mainly due to what happened back in 2020 when the economy was shut down in large parts and trillions of dollars were created. This growing wealth gap has been increasing since the 1980s, and it doesn't seem to be shrinking or slowing down anytime soon, especially also if higher inflation rates persist above its normal target of 2% annually.
The wealth gap is a productivity gap. You have to make most people in one way or another productive. You just can't give them money. You have to make them productive. There's a productivity gap that's going on. And so if you bring the sides together in bipartisan way and you create a strong middle, that's what the country needs in order to be healthy, I believe.
Now also, when it comes to the global geopolitical tensions and conflicts around the world, Dalio sees that the only way to solve these issues is to create a healthy environment where everyone can participate and compete. He talked about this several times, specifically when it comes to the tensions between the US and China, and also between other countries. Many of these conflicts that are happening today are happening at a time when we have significant sovereign debt issues that have never been seen before. It is estimated that the total global expenditure on military spending exceeded $2 trillion for the first time. The 5 largest spenders in 2021 were the United States, China, India, the United Kingdom, and Russia, together accounting for 62% of total expenditure. When we have this massive spending on external conflicts on top of the current budget deficits that the US and many other countries are facing today, things won't be directly in favor of the average person, since this issue will only result in more deficit spending and more printing of money, and therefore higher inflation and higher costs. Central banks around the world today have also been loading on gold recently, and the demand for gold surged to an 11-year high in 2022 due to colossal central bank buying. All of this highlights the internal and the external geopolitical risks and concerns that could lead to further economic issues moving forward.
Now, the real issue, I think, is how we deal with each other. Okay? If we, it was said earlier very well, peace. If we can keep a peace, if we can have a healthy, competitive environment without having a war with each other, we will be in good shape. We will make adaptations.
So obviously, Ray Dalio's general outlook on the market in 2024 is not so optimistic, given the current economic situation and the internal as well as the external political conflicts. And with the 2024 elections coming in just a few months, Dalio's worries about increased political division and the issues it could cause are deeply concerning given the current situation that we have today. However, as a matter of fact, there are always opportunities in the markets, regardless of how gloomy the overall situation might look, because money does not simply disappear, but rather moves from one place to another. And that's our job as investors, as we try to analyze and figure out where the money is moving, and try to be there at the right time before everyone else. So, if you want to stay up to date with the latest insights and trends that are happening in the economy, make sure to leave a thumbs up and to click the subscribe button below. And with that being said, see you in the next one.